palace didn't whisper this one. It thundered through gilded halls and glass screens like a royal earthquake, a monarch, a mother, and a move so bold it split the world into Team Crown and Team Chaos overnight. By the time the sun rose over Buckingham Palace, the story was already racing ahead of the facts. Insiders swore that King Charles III had activated an ancient-sounding heritage clause, a phrase so dramatic it felt ripped from a medieval scroll, not a modern constitutional file. And at the center of the storm, two children with royal blood, a California life, and parents whose love story turned into a global tug of war. The whispers painted a picture that felt almost unreal. Late-night meetings, sealed envelopes, advisors pacing antique carpets while phones buzzed with urgent updates from across the Atlantic. The word guardianship started surfacing in private briefings, then in hushed media chatter, then in full-blown primetime speculation. Not shared, not negotiated. Appointed. And the name tied to that alleged appointment landed like a second shockwave: Catherine, Princess of Wales. If the rumors were to be believed, the future queen had just been pulled into the most emotionally explosive chapter of modern royal history, not as a spectator, but as a central figure in the children's lives. Supporters called it stability, critics called it overreach. Everyone agreed on one thing: this was no quiet family disagreement. This was monarchy-level chess. Across the ocean, the narrative flipped completely. Sources close to Meghan Markle described disbelief, then fury, then a laser-focused determination not to be written out of her own children's story. The phrase maternal erasure started circulating in sympathetic circles, wrapped in emotion and defiance. To her supporters, this wasn't protocol, it was personal. Deeply, painfully personal. And where was Prince Harry in all of this? That question echoed almost louder than the legal jargon. Some said he was torn, others said he was silent by strategy. A few claimed he was overwhelmed, caught between the institution he was born into and the family he built outside its walls. Whatever the truth, his absence from the loudest public reactions only fueled more speculation. Silence in royal drama is never just silence. It's a statement people project their own theories onto. Behind palace gates, insiders described a shift in tone that had been building for months. Concern, they said. Frustration. A belief among senior figures that the children's lives had become too intertwined with branding, publicity cycles, and unpredictable schedules. Whether fair or not, that perception hardened into resolve. In that world, legacy isn't just emotional, it's structural. And once the word structure enters the chat, the crown tends to move with icy determination. Still, nothing about this felt clean or simple. Every source had a different emphasis. Some painted the move as protective, even compassionate, an attempt to create long-term stability away from flashing cameras and commercial pressures. Others saw power flexing, old traditions pushing back against a modern, independent path that didn't ask permission. What made it all even messier was the emotional symbolism. This wasn't just about schooling, travel, or legal technicalities. This was about identity, about where the children belong, not just geographically, but historically. Are they heirs to an institution or kids entitled to an ordinary upbringing far from palace expectations? The clash between those two visions became the real battlefield. Meanwhile, the public turned into armchair constitutional experts overnight. Social media threads dissected centuries-old royal customs alongside California family law. Talk shows debated whether bloodlines should ever outweigh parental autonomy. Every new leak, real or imagined, got treated like gospel for a few hours before the next twist took over. Through it all, Catherine's name kept resurfacing, often described as calm and private, methodical, focused on well-being rather than headlines. Admirers said she was the logical choice, a mother herself, deeply embedded in royal life, but known for prioritizing children's mental health. Critics countered that no amount of poise makes stepping into another mother's space anything but explosive. And Meghan? The narrative around her hardened into two extremes. To one side, she was a mother being cornered by a centuries-old machine. To the other, she was someone who'd pushed the boundaries too far, too publicly, too often. Lost in the shouting were the quiet realities no headline can fully capture. The bedtime routines, the school questions, the emotional ripples children feel even when adults think they're shielding them. As the alleged decree spread, one detail made everything feel final: the idea that this wasn't a temporary arrangement, but a long-term structural shift. Not a cooling-off period, not mediation, a redefinition of who stands where in the children's official world. That's when the story stopped being just gossip and started feeling like a turning point in royal history, at least in the court of public opinion. Because whether every rumor is accurate or not, the perception alone has already changed the narrative forever. Lines have been drawn in living rooms, newsrooms, and palace corridors alike. And the biggest twist? The crown, famously slow to react in most scandals, seemed, according to the chatter, to have moved with startling speed this time. That urgency spoke volumes. Either the concerns were deeper than anyone realized, or the fear of losing control of the narrative finally outweighed the fear of looking heavy-handed. One thing is certain, this isn't a story that fades quietly. Too many emotions, too much history, too many people with something to protect or to prove. And we're only at the beginning. By the second week, the silence from official podiums only made the background noise louder. Courtiers weren't talking on record, but off record? The tension was described as ice under glass, polished on the surface, cracking underneath. Every calendar shift, every cancelled appearance, every carefully worded palace update was suddenly being read like a coded message. Inside Kensington Palace, aides were said to be operating on a schedule that looked more like crisis management than routine royal duty. Not because anyone was staging dramatic scenes in hallways, but because the stakes had shifted. When children, legacy, and global scrutiny collide, even tea time briefings start to feel like war rooms. One senior insider described the mood in 3 words: quiet, firm, irreversible. That last one, irreversible, sent shivers through royal watchers. Because if this truly was a structural decision and not a pressure tactic, then the emotional fallout hadn't even peaked yet. Behind the scenes, Prince William was rumored to be playing a far more active role than the public realized. Not loud, not dramatic, but deeply involved in the legal and logistical side of things, especially anything tied to long-term stability. Those close to him say fatherhood sharpened his perspective. To him, this wasn't palace politics. It was about shielding young lives from becoming permanent headlines. And then there was Princess Anne, the family's steel backbone, according to generations of staff. Her name kept surfacing in connection with detailed reports, timelines, documented concerns. Where others brought emotion, she brought paperwork. Dates, patterns, evidence. In royal circles, that kind of methodical record-keeping can outweigh 1,000 passionate speeches. But across the ocean, emotion was exactly what drove the counter-narrative. Friends of Meghan insisted she felt blindsided not just legally, but personally. From her point of view, the institution she stepped away from was now stepping directly into her home life. That wasn't tradition, that was intrusion. And the more formal the palace language became, the more human and raw her side sounded in comparison. The battle lines weren't just legal, they were philosophical. One side speaking the language of duty, continuity, and constitutional responsibility. The other speaking the language of autonomy, motherhood, and modern identity. Both believed they were protecting the children. Both believed the other side didn't understand the harm being done. Meanwhile, the children themselves remained physically distant from the noise, but emotionally at its center. Sources sympathetic to the palace said plans were being shaped around privacy, routine, and gradual transitions, words meant to signal care, not control. Critics rolled their eyes, arguing that you can't bureaucrat your way into a child's sense of security. At Sandringham House and Balmoral Castle, preparations were rumored to be quietly discussed, not nurseries or grand announcements, but schedules, schooling possibilities, seasonal visits. The kind of forward planning that only happens when people believe a situation is going to last. Still, the emotional wildcard remained Harry. Those who've known him since childhood say his deepest instinct has always been protection, first for his mother's memory, now for his own family. That's why his position felt so impossible. Stand fully with Meghan and risk total fracture with the institution tied to his birthright, lean toward the crown and face accusations of betrayal at home. Either way, he loses something that can't be replaced. There were whispers of late-night calls, of messages left unanswered, of intermediaries trying to keep conversations from turning into confrontations. Nothing explosive, just the slow, painful strain of people who love each other but no longer agree on what safe looks like. Publicly, the palace leaned hard into one theme. This is about structure, not punishment. Privately, even some supporters admitted the optics were brutal. A powerful institution asserting authority in a family matter will never look gentle, no matter how carefully the paperwork is worded. And yet, among loyalists, a different fear drove support. The fear of drift, of royal children growing up disconnected from their heritage, shaped more by media cycles than by stable community. To them, this move wasn't aggression. It was retrieval. The most haunting detail, shared in whispers, was the idea of letters, personal messages written now to be opened years later, explaining choices made in the children's name. Whether that's romantic myth-making or real planning, it reveals how long everyone thinks the shadow will stretch. As legal teams circle and narratives harden, one truth sits uncomfortably in the middle. No court filing can fully capture bedtime tears, confused questions, or the quiet resilience children develop when their world feels uncertain. Palaces can offer protection, parents can offer love. But when those two forces clash publicly, the emotional math never balances neatly. In the end, this isn't just a royal story. It's a story about power and parenthood colliding under the brightest spotlight on Earth. About tradition trying to hold its shape in a world that keeps demanding reinvention. About a family dispute that stopped being private the moment titles, history, and global fascination got involved. The Crown believes it's securing the future. Meghan believes she's defending her children's present. Harry stands somewhere in the emotional crossfire, carrying ghosts from the past while trying not to repeat history. And the world watches, picks sides, argues in comment sections, but none of us will ever fully know what it feels like inside those private rooms, where love, fear, duty, and pride are all speaking at once. One chapter may have closed with an official declaration, but the emotional story? That's still being written in real time, heartbeat by heartbeat, far from the flash of cameras, yet forever shaped by them. For shaped by them. For shaped by them.